will be over at Tampa Bay Wave if you missed it last night. I don't like to brag. When we did it in St. Pete, we did it in the canopy at the Birchwood. And had a lot of fun, some cocktails, and even weathered a rainstorm. It'd be cool. Wave is cool. They don't have as good a cocktails. Exactly. What is your take on that? The canopy versus wave.
What is it? Canopy all day.
Nice. Pitch practice with JJ is at Portside Grill, I believe. Is that correct?
Correct.
Absolutely. The Green Tech Meetup, as always, will be a Green Bench with custom guidance to work your way through that. That'll be in that room. There's the website to register. Tech Talk, as always, is at Microsoft. Not sure who's there this year, or this week, this month, this period of time. Danielle?
I'm sorry, what? I'm Sweetie. I don't actually participate in
I don't know.
Yes, it is.
I mean, it sounds great.
Save yourself from something and
Yeah. And then the most fun.
I'll post it on our Facebook page.
And then celebrate tech entrepreneurs with Murray Ann and Three Daughters Brewing on the 19th. Our next presenter, Sophia from USGS. I know you're thinking USGS. That seems like a fresh young startup. They're a prime example of entrepreneurship and really innovative kind of satellite things going on inside. Sophia is one of those innovators. And she's here to present.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. So yes, my name is Dr. Sophia, and I know many of you are like me. We all love walking on the beach, right along the beach. That interface when the water meets land. And I know many of you are maybe like me. We live, work, and play on the coast. But did you know that nearly half of the U.S. population lives within 50 miles of the coast? It's a lot of people, including myself. I'm fortunate enough to live in Key, right on Tampa Bay. This is my backyard. And I think it's important that we think about what happens when, our coasts change when extreme storms occur. So I don't know if many of you know what happens, but hurricane season is starting this Saturday, June 1st. So many of you get an idea of what happens. But, I moved here about a year and a half ago. And so I didn't know much about what happens when our coasts are hit by extreme storms like hurricanes. But I work with oceanographers, geographers, geologists who do understand and know how our coasts are changing. So I'll just give you a little bit of an idea, a little bit of the science on what happens. So I work with geologists that have been looking at how coasts, and especially barrier islands, which are our first line of defense when hurricanes occur, they help protect our mainlands. Well, when storms hit the coast, dune erosion might occur. That's when waves and storm surge hit the dune and it can create dune scarps. But then you might have overwash, where sand is pushing, where the waves push the sand inland onto roads and can create some issues. But then you might have inundation, where the beach and dune may be completely submerged, creating large issues if people are developed right on the coast. And that is what's happening. I mean, you notice that our barrier islands, see Treasure Island, we all are familiar with these barrier islands. We all live on the coast. They're overly urbanized, and our beaches and dunes are rapidly eroding. So the USGS scientists I've been working with have been developing these geospatial prediction models, where you can go, they've developed it for the Atlantic and Gulf Coast, and you can kind of see what's the probability of these different kinds of processes, dune erosion, overwash, inundation. This is all based on NOAA's storm surge wave conditions, as well as getting the dune elevation heights that we get from its LiDAR data. Now, since 1995, we've been taking over 140,000 oblique aerial photographs of the coast. This is a way for us to get ground truth data of what actually happens after a storm. And we sometimes put them on interactive maps, and we create, pre and post-storm photo comparisons. But really, other than that, we don't really use this very expensive data that is being paid by your money. So that's kind of what we're trying to do. That's the purpose problem that we're trying to tackle with iCoast. USGS lacks the resources to analyze all the photos that we take after storm. So after Hurricane Sandy, we took over 9,000 aerial photographs, and we can't analyze all that at once. Also, computers cannot yet automatically identify the kind of changes that we are looking for in these kind of aerial photographs. And also, we need to validate and improve our prediction models using ground truth data like aerial photographs. So that's what iCoast is meant to do, is to address these issues. Now, you might wonder, well, who are our customers? Well, technically it's all of you guys, because you are US citizens who are paying and funding this kind of research through taxpayer money. But really what we're trying to do with this project is target, strategically target coastal stakeholders who live on the coast, scientists, coastal managers, planners, and coastal residents like many of yourselves. But we will also, try to tackle other crowds that are related and interested in helping. So just to give you an idea of what iCoast is and how it looks. The first task is basically asking people to look for the best pre-storm photo that matches the post-storm photo here. And then the second task is to determine what type of coastline is it, a barrier island in this case, and then what level of development, moderate, heavy level of development. Then the third task asks, what kind of coastal infrastructure you might see and which ones are damaged. The fourth task asks you to look for certain kinds of geomorphic changes that affect the beaches and dunes. And we've actually organized tags to relate to those different coastal processes of beach erosion, dune erosion, overwash, and inundation I mentioned. And then the last task is just asking people to look for other unexpected features like piles of sand, construction activity that might occur, and then indicate what other kinds of changes you might see just through a common box. So what's the point of doing this? Well, what we can do with this crowdsourced data is we're intending to improve the prediction models, but really a lot of the prediction models of the dune erosion, overwash, and inundation that the USGS scientists have been developing is all based on beach and dune geomorphology. And what we're doing with the iCoast data and what we can glean from these aerial photographs is observations of infrastructure damage and what kind of recovery efforts are already happening even a week after the storm. And this is where I can help create more of a human element to these very geologic, geomorphic perspectives that the scientists tend to focus on. And what we can do is use Bayesian networks and special mathematical models to then create correlations between all these different observations that we ask people to look for. So for example, if we know that we're 100% sure that we see a dune scarp, then we can start to predict that there's 75% likelihood that there was dune erosion, 63% likelihood that you'll see dark sand, 30% likelihood you'll see damaged sand fences, and so on. So we can create predictions from this crowdsourced data. And even though we're asking people, their first project is looking at Hurricane Sandy. We're having people look at, well, what type of response, looking at the hazard analysis, how did the geologic change occur on the beach? It's really meant to also, these models are meant to inform evacuation efforts. It can inform land use regulation, building standards, increase public awareness, let people know what kind of damage can occur on the coast. So it has many different ways in which we can engage with the public. So what's the mission of iCoast? It's to design a crowd tagging system using citizen science and crowdsourcing techniques to really educate the public about coastal hazards. We use crowdsourced data from iCoast to ground truth and improve these prediction models of coastal change. And we also have iCoast ready for this hurricane season. So if any hurricane were to come this hurricane season, we can pull in those photos and get people to see images right away. But we also have been taking photos since 1995 for 24 storms, so we can also get people to look at what has happened in the past and understand our vulnerability to our coast. So how can you help? Please volunteer if you're interested. Maybe spread the word to any coastal stakeholders you might know, or just people that are interested in this project. And then I'd just be open to hearing what other kinds of crowds we can target, what other kind of events that we might be able to tap into. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of hurricane expos this coming weekend, starting this Saturday, and that's a good start, and I think really engaging with the community. So with that, I just want to say volunteer for iCoast. We also have the top story of on this iCoast projects that can give you a little bit more background information. That's on our homepage at usgs.gov. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much for your time and very interested to hearing feedback from you.
With all the modeling that can be done, what, all the predictions that can occur, how is that going to help the local government prepare for a storm and mitigate the damage? There's things that are going to be executed, whether it's pilings out of the water or things that can be done to prevent the erosion and mitigate it.
I think it's a good question, and it's hard. There's not a clear answer. We are constantly changing, just like nature's constantly changing the coast. Every day, the wave runs onto shore. We're always having, say, beach erosion, as they call it. And we see the high and low tide constantly changing every day. But we are anthropogenically changing our coast. We are constantly being asked. I remember on the news one time I heard, Casa Grill is trying to figure out should they continue to do beach nourishment and continue to add sand when we know it's just going to go away again. And how do we, we also add jetties. There's all sorts of different ways in which we're trying to fight that changing of the coast. And so I think it's an open question of what does the community want to invest in the short term, knowing in the long term. Now, I think we're all fortunate here. We tend to have a unique area where hurricanes affect this area in a different way. It tends to divert it. So people here are not as concerned as much as maybe in other areas on the coast. So I think it's an open question. It depends. It's a question that the waterfront folks here, what do they want to do with the pier, for example? It's a really interesting question to figure out what should we do given that hurricanes might happen.
I've lived on the beach on a short, small sandbar for probably about 25 years. And the beach in front of my house is actually growing. On the ends of the island where it passes, the sand moves. Is there a way to rephrase that? Because I don't really think it erodes.
It's accretion.
It moves to other places. So anytime the sand moves away from one place, it goes to another place.
Very much. Yes.
So, it's trying to stop the ocean from doing that seems kind of impossible, doesn't it?
Well, if you'll notice in certain areas, I think maybe it's New Jersey, there's a lot of jetties that are lined up. And once you put one jetty, you kind of have to put another jetty and then another jetty. And then you start to see a pattern of, it helps collect and keep the sand there. But it's a challenge, when, if one person does one thing on this part of the coast, it will affect and create change. So it's great. I think what you are experiencing is a lot of coastal accretion as opposed to erosion. And that's also what happens. Sometimes in areas that are hit by storms, you might have a lot of sand that came off of the shore, but then it gets pushed back onto shore, creating sort of an emergent sandbar, sometimes what they call it. And it helps, and I think Fort DeSoto also has a lot of that activity that happens. And that is a good example of how nature is able to, bring back and not erode an area. And I think that's what we also need to be aware of. How are some areas doing well more so than others? And how can we work with that change that nature's constantly doing?
And in some beaches like Treasure Island, I noticed that they have mounds or artificial things. What's the state of the art about putting man-made things there in order to slow down the shift?
It's a good question, and I think there's no clear answer. I work next to a person from the Fish and Wildlife, and his concern is making sure that we do things that don't affect the wildlife. But there's so many different stakeholders involved, and some will say, well, this will help keep our sand on our beach, but then it's a huge eyesore. I think some of them are like big geotubes, as they call it, or something, like that big yellow thing.
Yeah.
And it is. I remember seeing it when I first moved here, and I wondered what that was. And then I don't think I've seen it recently because I think they moved it away. But it is, an eyesore. It can be. But is that what you want to keep the sand so you still have the beach? And I think there's many different perspectives on it, and it also costs a lot of money to have that there and to constantly maintain it. So I think there needs to, we have a huge marine science community here, and I think there needs to be a larger discussion of how do we want to invest in our coast, and how do we want all of us to be able to enjoy it, but also, to make use of it and protect it.
How familiar are you with the seagrass? Actually implementing the seagrass to be able to prevent the changes?
I'm not as familiar with that particular area. I do work with people that do, but that is one of many aspects. It's very important to protect our coastal wetlands, barrier islands, and it helps to, all the seagrass and all the sea oats, all the vegetation really helps to keep the sand from moving. So they are really important. That's why I think it's great that when you go along Casa Grill, you see all the signs that say don't step on the dunes. I think they've done a good job in really trying to make sure that we just don't let people develop right on it and let it just erode so quickly. Because vegetation, it takes time to have it. So that's my short answer.
As far as getting support from people, have you guys thought about anything like, I grew up on Treasure Island, I know the cost of replacing the seawall, or fixing to replace our docks. And so these are things as homeowners, you're probably willing to invest money in research for this if the long-term we're still getting benefit from our home properties there.
That's a good question. I would like to really engage in that way. I think, to me, it's all about getting different stakeholders involved, including insurance companies, to really understand how should we really value our coasts. How do we want to value, what it is, how much beach nourishment we want to do versus engineering, really doing coastal engineering structures, or really allow people just to enjoy it and naturally allow it to change. Just like Port DeSoto, I think they've done a great job in lining. So I definitely am open to hearing what are some possibilities of working with the community, the local community here, and other communities along the coast.
I was wondering if you had thought about using high school and college students in the biology departments to do this research for you, because I'm sure their teachers would love to have this kind of project.
That's a great suggestion. I actually have been fortunate to work with, I've given talks at Eckerd College and at USF a little bit, but I'm hoping to do a little bit more now that we've got this site fully live. I started this project since January 2013, so I've been doing a lot of different prototypes, trying to do different kind of agile development, user studies to get to where we are now. So it was great to start with the students.
Yeah, I
first.
think
So
the high school students also,
Yes.
go down to that level, you've got a much bigger pool. I know Shorequest High School, I could be pretty sure they could do this.
Mhm.
And maybe the public schools could enroll them as well.
That would be great, yeah, that's a good point. And I was also thinking, trying to go to science museums, have it be a part of the hurricane exhibit.
Adding on to her idea, every high school student in the state of Florida, probably in the country, has to go through a earth sciences class. And this is the fundamental part in Florida of the earth science curriculum. I can tell you that having been an earth science teacher, that any earth science teacher would love the hands-on aspect of this as an exercise for kids. And kids would really engage with something like this. Geologists actually make a little difference out there as well. If you could develop a simple, 1-day, 2-day curriculum for high school earth science teachers to present to their kids, and there, of course, there are websites out there that can post curriculum ideas, teaching tools and stuff. You could have a tremendous and incredible pool of crowdsource information.
It's a great idea. Yeah, and I happened to talk with some different textbook publishers and trying to think of how can we create more interactive components to these different textbooks that we have nowadays. Maybe
Most
online.
teachers are looking online now
Yeah.
for their teaching tools. But if you could get it condensed down to a 1 or 2 page,
Right.
simple instruction, go to this website, find 2 photographs, analyze them for this and this, and this right here. You could have hundreds, thousands, millions of little figures working for you.
Thank you.
I'm just a little confused on all this because when you hear about climate change taking place and the sea level rising and all that, a lot of this talk about hurricane and storms type of things, isn't it all going to be moved because water levels are rising anyway? They say most of coastline Florida is going to be underwater anyway, so what's the relevance of all of this if that's happening?
Awareness. I think, you know, we live in a short-term kind of way of thinking in the world, and we are very much in a reactive kind of approach to our crises in this country. We wait until, you know, crisis happens, and then we're like, okay, now what should we do? And I think, you know, for example, in New Jersey, there was that pier that had all those shops and stuff. It was totally destroyed by Hurricane Sandy. They rebuilt it, and then it got burned down. And I'm not quite sure what they're going to do now, but you know that they could have built better and made sure that their electrical system was that critical infrastructure was stable. But I think we have to be smarter and more strategic. And I think sometimes we just wait until something really hits us and say, okay, fine, I will do something. In this part of Florida too, we've been kind of fortunate, except for maybe around 2004, there was a little bit more of that activity happening in the hurricane activity. But I think, you know, we also work with scientists that are looking at sea level rise at USGS. So this is part of one of many different perspectives on how our coasts are changing and how, you know, sea level rise is one of many aspects to it. So I think that's my short answer.
Yeah, so I have two questions for you. First being, as an organization or institution, what would it take to partner with you on this project? And secondly, that's not as relevant, is what does volunteering look like?
For iCoast?
Yeah.
So it was sort of just going through and doing those tasks of looking at some photos, answering a set of questions and tags. At some point, what we'd like to do is expand the iCoast project and the application so we also can collect photos from social media or directly from people who are on the coast. The main problem that we face is, okay, we take these photos. With Hurricane Sandy, we took it a week after the storm because the fine conditions did not allow us to go there immediately after the storm. So during a storm, people are sometimes on the coast, they weren't able to evacuate or did not want to, and it's those images that become very helpful. So in a semi-near future, hopefully, part of this project, that other piece of volunteering is not just going online and analyzing these photos, but also to submit photos. I know many people probably have photos from past storms that they've experienced, and even those photos can be really helpful that we can compare to all the 140,000 aerial photographs that we've taken. So we can keep it at that.
Just curious, why do you need like oblique photos taken from I'm assuming out of choppers, opposed to like satellite imagery or something like that? What's the advantage to personally going out there and doing that field work? I don't know what access, satellite imagery you guys have, but
That's a really good question, actually. Civil Air Patrol also takes kind of these oblique aerial photographs. And the reason why is satellite imagery we do have, and we can get it all from Digital Globe. We have money, we have contracts to get that data, but we are interested, and these scientists are particularly interested in the dune and beach geomorphology. So being able to see the elevation change, how high maybe that dune is. They can get that data from LiDAR, but being able to take a photo, we want to take it low, have it at a low enough altitude, and show a small enough portion of the coast so that we can really get the kind of detail and high resolution that we want to ground truth our pollution levels.
You need to move low.
What?
You need to move
You're
low.
right, exactly. We're also trying to, tap into CoStar and see if we can also get that kind of imagery through different folks that are already on the Sorry, let's see.
I think it'd be neat if people could basically adopt a mile or a half a mile in their area and own that for years, and they'd be able to actually become experts in their mile. And you could have multiple people doing that. They could go out and take pictures. They could hire little drone photos.
Right.
Take pictures of the
Yeah.
You'd have all kinds of things that people would own their own coast.
Yeah, and I know that there's a lot of adopted coast or shore signs along the coast, and so I was thinking of tapping into those communities.
Well, what I had to say kind of, works with that a little bit. I know the U.S. Forestry Service out in California last year started installing signs where people can take their smartphones and put them out there, and they can show the growth after a fire comes through. And basically what it is, people walk up there, they put their phone down on the sign, they take a picture, then they hashtag it with a certain area location, and then it can be, searched later by date and where it was taken from. And enables the forestry service to really utilize that. So if like different, signs were put out there, people are able to go out there and crowdsource their photos, on a weekly or daily basis. And maybe that's some way you guys can track some of the coastline. It doesn't give you the aerial perspective, it'll give you some of the elevations of the dunes.
Very much. Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, I'd like to try to do something like that.
What qualifications and what training?
I'm sorry, what?
What qualifications for the people to do this and what kind of training do you provide?
That's a good question. I've created this lovely handout to make it as easy as possible, I hope, how to get started. And then here's kind of an image of the different tools. There's a magnifier tool that allows you to zoom in and out with a scroll bar. We also got these pop-up